When you're on vacation, you want to stay on track with your goals. You want to keep the body that you've worked so hard for, but you also want to enjoy that beautiful destination. And here I'm in Turkey, in Antalya, and it's a fantastic place. And I'm going to show you in this video how I stay on track with my food and I stay on track with my workouts, even if there isn't a gym or there's very limited equipment. If you are traveling, it is absolutely impossible to stay on track with food and therefore reach your goals. Is that right? It's actually wrong. You can absolutely stay on track with food when you're traveling. I actually travel a great deal at the moment. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was actually out in Corfu, and so I'm doing this all the time, and it's obviously really important for me to maintain and even make progress with my body. So I'm going to take you through exactly how I do it in this video. So the first thing is to say is you cannot be absolutely perfect. While you're out traveling, maybe you're traveling for work, maybe vacation, you know, we call it holiday in the UK, whatever it is, you will find that you can't be perfect like you would be at home. But there are some steps you can take to either maintain what you've got. That's pretty much my goal at the moment, is just maintain what I've got. But I have in the past been traveling when I've actually been preparing for bikini shows and dropping body fat for things like photo shoots. So it is absolutely possible, but you're gonna have to kind of throw out what you normally do at home. So for example, I don't take scales with me. You could take scales, so I'm gonna have to eyeball everything. So it means it's all about portion control and kind of monitoring myself what I'm eating, because I'm not gonna be able to track it on MyFitnessPal because I can't weigh it. So I'm gonna take you through the step-by-step process. Now, the first thing is your preparations actually start before you start traveling. That's really important. So it's when you're packing and preparing to get on a flight. Now, I'm going to talk about getting on a flight. I never eat airplane food. Firstly, it's really expensive, and secondly, it's really unhealthy. It's really difficult to find a high protein meal that's pretty lean on airplane food. Now, sometimes you have to eat it, so when you're coming back, that's a different story. But when you're flying out, what I do is I take a packed lunch. So this time I took enough for kind of lunch and dinner. So I took 2 wraps that were filled with lean beef, fill them with chicken, tofu, fish, doesn't really matter, maybe beans. But what the good thing about wraps is they're really portable. So they're kind of whole meal contained in a wrap, aren't they? And so that's what I did. And I put a little bit of feta cheese, put some chili flakes in, and that's it. These are not absolutely ideal, but again, they're really useful. Is I took some protein chips and a protein bar, simply because they're really portable, aren't they? You can't take water, so what I did is actually bought water once I got to the airport. From the time that I was at the airport, which was a few hours, to when I got off the flight, I think I probably spent about 7 to 8 hours traveling. So I did need all that food and those 2 meals. You're also going to need to prepare some food for when you get there, because the chances are there's like a few things that they won't have. What I love to pack is some protein powder, and I'm going to talk about that because I use that at breakfast. I also pack my own oats or oatmeal, because I often find when I get to a hotel that they actually don't have an oatmeal. Now, as it happens here, they've got jumbo oats here, but the oatmeal that I brought with me is cut oatmeal, so it's easier to eat when it's raw. So, you know, because I didn't have a chance to soak my oats before that I eat them or cook them, I was quite glad of bringing my own oatmeal. The other thing I tend to bring is rice cakes. They're just pretty handy for things like pre or post workout snacks. And then I take protein bars. Now, protein bars aren't brilliant because they are a processed food, but they're really handy because they're really portable and you can just eat them. We're lucky enough here that there is a fridge, which makes a massive difference. So I checked checked whether there was a fridge before I arrived, and I brought some cooked chicken with me. Now, if I didn't have the cooked chicken, what I actually do, and I'm probably going to need to do this while I'm here, is just buy some canned fish to have in the room, and I'll probably buy some peanut butter as well just to have in the room. So it's really good if you can pre-prepare, travel with as much as that as you can, what the weight will allow you to carry, so it doesn't mean that you're trying to source really difficult things to buy in the country that you're arriving in, because you never know exactly what they've got. I'm going to talk about hotel breakfast because the chances are you're going to be staying in a hotel. If you're self-catering, then it's really easy, isn't it? Because you can go out and buy exactly what you normally eat, or very close to what you normally eat if you're self-catering. If you're staying in a hotel, we're talking about a buffet. I always get up and eat the hotel breakfast because it's one of the easiest meals of the day that I find I can stay on track. It's so simple, and it's because it's a buffet, but they've usually got stuff like egg, yogurt. Sometimes you'll find they have oatmeal, sometimes they don't. They're going to have some fruit and they're going to have some vegetables. So I'm going to take you through exactly what I do for breakfast. There's a really surprising tip at breakfast that actually helps you with your lunch. I'm here having the hotel breakfast, but we've bought our own oatmeal, so I'm going to use that. We do actually have jumbo oats here, but they're quite big, and so these ones work better if you're going to just have them cold because you've not got time to soak them. Then I'm going to go for this protein powder on it, and I've just picked some fruit. It's like some Turkish fruit. I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to try it just on the side, and I'm also going to put a little bit of yogurt on the top. They do serve some nice Turkish yogurt here at breakfast. So there it is, my protein and oats. I've put 1.5 scoops of protein in there and a dollop of lovely local Turkish yogurt, and I'm going to have that with some fruit. And I avoid juice. I can't have coffee at the moment because I've just had my teeth whitened. I can't even have tea. So I'm just drinking some plain old water there. See what it's like. It's pretty good. So I finished the hotel breakfast, and now I'm just going to make up a few things for myself for lunch. So what I've done is I've got some boiled eggs here, and then I've got like a little bit of salad. Now, yesterday I actually got some bread as well, some sliced whole grain bread, but I overdid it on the bread, so I'm just going to avoid that and maybe have that with a couple of rice cakes. And I always bring, when I go on vacation, I always bring these bags. And you know, my family, it's something we did traditionally in my family, is that you always get your lunch at breakfast. It's like a cost-saving thing, but actually it's pretty, you can make it pretty healthy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop these tomatoes in there. You could get any kind of veg that you can find at breakfast. Just going to put those in the bag like that. And then I'm going to kind of seal them up. You could, as I said, take some whole grain bread. You could take some of the cold meats. They usually have the cold meats, but the problem with those is they're processed. And I've got chicken that I can have with that. There's a couple of eggs there as well for Ken. So we've got plenty that we can have later on without going off plan with food, but also it's going to save quite a lot of money. And then what we'll do is have our biggest meal later on in the day, in the evening. Now, depending on what time you arrive, but when I've had my breakfast, normally I'll go shopping and buy a few essentials to have in the room. Things you can buy, I mentioned this earlier, canned fish is usually ready available available everywhere. You might be able to find some whole grain bread, but you could just get some slices of that at breakfast. I like to have some yogurt in the fridge, and obviously plenty of water. That's going to be essential, especially if you're going to somewhere hot. It's really important that you keep yourself hydrated, and because I've just got a little bit of a penchant for this, I also get some dark chocolate. This time I actually brought it with me. It's not essential, but it's just something that I like to have, just a small square of dark chocolate. Another thing that's great to have in the fridge, if you can find it in the local supermarket, or you might be able to grab some stuff when you go for breakfast, and that's some fresh salad. That's great for having in the fridge because it's a really easy meal to put together for you. Okay, let's talk about exercise, because I'm a big fan of exercise. I love my strength training and I love doing a bit of HIIT cardio, but when you're traveling, it's not possible always to stick to your normal routine. It's a good idea to always pack in your suitcase a resistance band and a skipping rope. That's what I pack because it gives me quite a lot of options in terms of working out. As you can see here, I'm having to make do with some makeshift equipment. So I'm just going to do what I can. It's not great, but you've got to make the best of what you've got. There's actually no dumbbells or any other free weights here, which is a bit odd. Back from that insanely hot workout, and the most important thing is to get some hydration in, but I'm also going to have a post-workout snack, or you could describe it as a meal. I'm not really due for lunch yet, although it is lunchtime. I'm just going to have something really quick and then eat with Ken later on. I bought these rice cakes with me, so I always pack rice cakes in a bag in a suitcase, and these are whole grain ones, so they work really well for me because I don't want to have a huge blood sugar spike. And then I've got this cooked chicken that I bought with me, but I do find if I didn't manage to bring cooked chicken, because it's not that far away from me, Turkey, so it wouldn't have sort of gone off on the flight or anything like that. It's only about 4 hours. But if I didn't bring cooked chicken, what I'd do is just go out and buy cooked chicken from a supermarket. If I couldn't find that, then I'd go for something like tuna. So that's always readily available. If you're vegan or vegetarian, I think the best thing is to bring something like tofu with you, or you could have like a plant-based protein shake. So I'm going to eat a couple of rice cakes with some of that chicken on the top. I'm about to eat some lunch, so what I've done is taken the vegetables that I got from breakfast out of the fridge. So that's what I'm having with my lunch, and I grabbed some eggs at breakfast, so I'm just going to have those. And I brought in my case these oat cakes. I was thinking about having rice cakes, but I'm actually going to have oat cakes. I prefer the taste of those, and then it's not too samey with having a post-workout snack with rice cakes, but it just helps me also avoid bread. If I was going out, then what I would do is just pop everything into some sandwich bags, which I've brought anyway. It's always good to bring sandwich bags or buy them when you're out there, because then you can take stuff around with you. Let's talk about eating out, because when you're traveling, what's going to happen is you're going to be eating out a great deal. Now that's maybe a hotel buffet, at restaurants, cafes, bars and bistros, isn't it? And the other option is, if you're traveling traveling, you might be going to work conferences. And the first thing is to say, try to stick to what you would normally eat as far as possible. That's the rule of thumb. So I'm going to talk about the things not to eat, and I think they are featured a lot in food worldwide, but they're actually not going to be that helpful, and that's stuff like pizza and pasta. Now, I'm not being negative about Italian food, because there are some options that you can eat in terms of Italian food, but pizza and pasta is particularly unhelpful because it tends to be loaded with fats and carbohydrates together, and so it's going to be loaded with calories. It's not particularly high in protein. It doesn't really work in terms of helping you reach your goal. That might sound pretty obvious, but the thing to do is avoid things like with lots of pastries, bread, that kind of thing. It's actually going to be really, really unhelpful. The thing to do is actually eat a bit of protein at every single meal, isn't it? So when you're thinking about eating out, try and stick to something that's high in protein. Fish, chicken, beans, tofu. That's the main feature of your plate, plus your veggies. If you can get that nailed, it's really, really going to be beneficial for you. Now, some of the foods that I love to eat when I'm eating out tends to be things like sushi. That's really good because it's fish and rice. And we did eat out. I'm going to show you now. I actually ate sushi. However, because the menu was written in Turkish, when it came out, it actually didn't come out quite how I wanted. And that's kind of what's going to happen. Sometimes things go a little bit wrong. What I found was there seemed to be a lot of cream cheese inside the sushi, which obviously that's not a traditional Japanese thing. That's something that the Turkish put in. So I'm probably going to go back there, but I'm going to be a bit more careful about questioning them about the ingredients. That cream cheese is probably really high in calories, and it's not going to be helpful for helping me stick to my goals. Other options are things like grilled chicken, grilled fish, steak. They're really, really good. You can get away with a bit of Mexican food, but just don't go too heavy on the cheese and avocado because that's high in fat. So just small amounts. Stick to the lean meats, rice, or the lean meats, and the small tortilla. Those can be quite good in terms of getting your protein in. Avoid processed foods if you can, but if you have to have a burger, go for the high quality burgers. Go for something like a gourmet burger and have it without the bun or half a bun and some salad instead of fries, for example. And if you're out on vacation like me, don't eat the ice creams. That can be loaded with calories and there's no nutritional value. It's high in sugar, high in calories, and though I eat ice cream at home because I can buy a low calorie version, I do not eat it when I'm overseas. It's the kind of thing that could actually really make me easily gain weight. The other thing to talk about is alcohol. Now, I don't drink. What I'm actually drinking is plenty of water. I've actually just had my teeth whitened and Ken's here having his teeth done, so we can't have tea, we can't have coffee, so I'm purely sticking to water. I don't actually drink alcohol anyway, but I would say avoid alcohol if you can, and if you're gonna do it, just do it for one day and make sure you're drinking plenty of water in between meals. So you can see, traveling isn't all about being absolutely perfect, but I can assure you, if you follow some of those simple steps, it is really going to help you make progress, or mean that you're not going to go backwards, which for some people that's going to be a really big win. But you do have to exercise discipline. It's about not drinking tons of alcohol, not having those desserts, not having tons of ice cream. The chances are, if you do that, you are going to gain some body fat. But what you do have to remember is, if you hop on the scale and find that you have put on weight, some of that's going to be water weight, and so it's worth waiting for a few days before before you do that, because some of that water will just come off once you get back to normal. And do comment below if you found this video on traveling helpful, and whether you're going to use some of these techniques that I've talked about, and let me know if you've got some other tips about traveling. I'd love to hear from you.